Well, hello, this is Jeff Gaudiosi, and you're on misplacedstraws.com where music comes to life. My guest today is really one of the best voices in rock, and he's a pretty great bass player too. You probably first heard him on Yngwie Malmsteen's classic trilogy record, but since then he's played with bands like Royal Hunt, Shining Black, Dokken, and many, many others. His classic band, Ring of Fire, has just released a new record called Gravity, and he's here to talk about it. Please welcome Mark Boals. Welcome, Mark.
Hi, thanks, and thanks for such a great introduction. That sounded impressive. I'm impressed.
Well, yeah, as you could tell, probably I've been a fan for quite a while, so this is really
Thanks.
cool. But let's start with the band. This is a new lineup for Ring of Fire. Of course, it's still yourself and Vitaly Kupri, who many know from his current job, actually right now on the West touring group of Trans-Siberian Orchestra.
Right.
But Aldo Lenobile has stepped in for Tony McAlpine. You have a new rhythm section. What
Mhm.
led to these changes in the band?
Well, first of all, Tony, I would have loved to have Tony on the record, but he was not available at this point to do it. He's really busy with his solo instrumental stuff right now, and we're still good friends. So I discussed with Frontiers with Serafino about a bunch of different guitar players to do it, and it was really kind of a tough decision. But Aldo was somebody that I knew of, and he fit the bill really well. So I'm happy that he was able to do the album and be in the band. And the bass player and drummer are his guys; they're friends of his. He recommended them, so I didn't know them previously, but they did a great job. They did a really great job.
Yeah, and after working with Tony and just so many other great guitarists in your career, was there an adjustment to working with Aldo? I know Aldo usually does a lot of the writing and producing on records he's with. How did that work with you and Vitali?
Yeah, it was pretty seamless. I mean, Vitaly can be difficult with different people. He's never difficult with me, but he can be picky with other musicians. He and because he's being a virtuoso that he is, and he's just very picky. But Aldo he was very easy to work with, and he in the end, Vitaly was happy with everything, and so was I.
Mm.
And it went very smoothly. I've had albums that I've had a lot more difficulty in making. This one went. It was like it was meant to be. It just came together really easy.
Well, and again, even without that classic lineup of the band, with Tony and Virgil Donati and Philip Bino, Gravity is really everything a Ring of Fire fan could ask for. Your voice is as strong as ever. Vitali's amazing. And it's
Mhm.
still that same kind of, neo progressive, almost symphonic power metal. Was it important to you? I mean, you had to evolve with new people, but was it also important to keep the thread of what makes Ring of Fire such a unique band?
Yeah, I think so because I mean, all of us work on other projects as well, and you don't want to sound generic. I mean, we wanted to keep the thread going as some kind of continuity of the style, and I think we were successful in that, and I think it sounds like Ring of Fire as soon as you hear it. Anybody who's heard Ring of Fire before, and anybody who hasn't, well, welcome to Ring of Fire.
Yeah, musically, as all Ring of Fire records, it's a very complex record. Every time I listen to it, I hear something new in each song. I
Mhm.
love the guitar and key trade-off in something like Melancholia. It really signifies the band. Now, you guys are based all over the world. Did you have to work remotely to do this record? And is it hard doing that with such complex music when you can't be there to feed off each other?
Well, it might be hard for somebody who's never done it before, or somebody who's just starting out. But we've all been doing this for years now, so I mean, I don't know. It seems pretty straightforward now. That's the way to do things. When I mean, we got half the band in Italy,
Mhm.
Vitaly's in Pennsylvania, and I'm in Las Vegas. Uh, we never, and it's like the other the last album, other album band I have, Shining Black, that's on Frontiers as well. I've never met Olaf in person. We're really good friends, but we've never actually been in the same room. But we're working great together, and we get a chemistry. I mean, that's you manage to get a chemistry going musically, even from other parts of the world. Now it's the technology is amazing, and if I don't know, it's just 20 years ago or even 25 years ago, I couldn't imagine doing that kind of thing. And it's great when we can all get together in the same studio and physically get that physical chemistry going. But we get the musical chemistry going over the internet, no problem.
Yeah, and that was one of the places I was going to go is, when you look back on your career and you've been doing this for a while, I mean, did you ever think that you would be able to put together a record like this without meeting, the other guys in your band? It's not the old days where, a band comes up as, a high school gang that, turns into this band. Now it's sort of like mixing and matching, but it seems to work for you.
Yeah, it can. I mean, there's a lot of music out there where bands are together, but they're cut. The thing that bothers the music scene now is so many bands copy off of each other, copy the sound. It's like they have a boilerplate for the mix and for the production, and it sounds the same, and you can't tell which band it is. I mean, at least I can't. I mean, there's very few bands that have an identifiable sound, and that's regardless of whether they're together or whether they're over the internet friends. So I don't know. We're working. The budgets are not the same anymore because people are not buying physical product. There's not even CD players in cars anymore, and I never liked CDs anyway. I like vinyl, and I just pray for the comeback of vinyl, please. Please God, let there be vinyl.
Well, and again, a record like this is made for vinyl because you could get that depth where you hear the keys and the guitars separate, and it's not all, compressed and mixed together digitally.
Right. Yeah. The digital realm has gotten better. It's gotten better and better. But just when I listen to the old albums that were recorded and mixed and mastered and pressed on entire analog stream from beginning to end, the sound is magical to me when you listen to it on a good system. And I pray for those days to come back. A lot of the young kids are getting into it now, and people that have money are buying really expensive systems and speakers, and there's a whole esoteric expansion going on that involves vinyl. It has to and I wish I could afford some of that stuff. I mean, I went to the AES show. I go to those shows in Vegas and listen to the $150,000 stereo system. And yes,
Yeah, I want that. Now, we've talked about how this is all kind of put together remotely and you guys are spread out all over. Do you ever see a time when Ring of Fire will be able to play live and bring these songs to the stage?
Yeah, I do. There's places that such as Japan and Europe where we can probably do it and pull it off easily. America's a little tougher. It's tougher because of you just got to have a lot more promotion, and we've as far as the band Ring of Fire, we never broke the American market that well. It's always been Europe and Asia and a little bit of South America, more so than the United States. So if we can break it a little more, I think we can do it. But we definitely want to play some live shows. Me and Vitaly are totally determined to do some shows next year. So we'll be playing somewhere. I don't know where, but we'll be playing.
I'd love to see it. That's for sure. And I mentioned earlier in the introduction that, the trilogy record, which is one of my favorite records ever. You joined Yngwie right after the Jeff Scott Soto years. You did the one amazing record, then moved on, came back a decade or so later and did a few more, including what I think was his last great record, War to End All Wars. how did you first hook up with Yngwie, and why did the first run only last one record?
Well, I toured with him on the Marching Out tour because Jeff Scott Soto quit the band before the tour, before the album came out even. And they were supposed to re-record the vocals on that with me, but the manager just he was too busy stealing money uh, to spend money on anything like that was already in the can. So I ended up doing the all of 1985 touring with AC/DC and other festivals and stuff, and then we went in the studio and did the trilogy, and that was the first big album I'd ever done. It was really an eye-opening experience all around. The the spending money left and right. Money was going everywhere, but to us, it was going out the door. It was a $6.8 million deal that we had with Polygram for 3 records. I think they dropped them after the following record, but now I've kind of lost my track of where I was going with all this. But you asked how I got into Yngwie, I guess. Yeah.
And then how did it end? Did it end when getting dropped after Trilogy, your time in the band?
Well, how I got into it was basically through Ainsley Dunbar. I was, Ainsley Dunbar, the famous drummer. I had to audition for a band with him, Tim Bogart, and Ronnie Montrose. And Ronnie Montrose disappeared. We did a rehearsal, and then they disappeared. They said I could be in the band, and then I said, Ainsley, can you give me another gig? And he said, well, let me see what I can do. And he recommended me to go over there. He recommended me to Yngwie's manager because he was looking for a singer. And that's how I got into it. How I got out of it was there was so much shenanigans going on with money and craziness, drugs, everything all the excesses that you can imagine in the 80s were magnified 100 times over with that whole scene. And I just couldn't take it anymore. I couldn't. It just there was tour support from the record company that wasn't coming to us. The manager stole, I guess, out of that $6 million advance, $4 million right off the top, and he ended up stealing all the tour support, and so we were poor. Yngwie, he kept money in Yngwie's pocket, so Yngwie didn't know really what was going on. He just kept pocket money to Yngwie. Rented him a car, told him it was a gift. He said, "This is my gift to you," but it was a lease. Things like that. It was just too much craziness for me to handle. So I left, and I thought things would be a little different when I went back later years, and they were different, but they weren't better really. They weren't much.
Now, I've talked with quite a few of his former band members and singers, and everyone has their own story, but were you able to have your creative input? Were you able to bring your personality to the songs at all?
Yeah, no matter what he says on the Trilogy record in particular, Jens, the keyboard player, wrote a lot of the stuff. I mean, he basically wrote the music for "You Don't Remember," that song. It was written on keyboard, so it wasn't written on guitar. And as far as the vocal stuff, Yngwie would give me a title, and he'd say, "Yeah, just sing anything. This song is called, yeah, just sing anything." As opposed to what he says in his interviews, he conducted everything. No, he wasn't even there. He wasn't in the studio at all. I mean, yes, we all contributed stuff that didn't get credit for. That was another frustrating part of the whole deal. So.
And you've had such a varied career between sort of that power metal style that you see in Ring of Fire to more straight ahead hard rock to even classically inspired work. But is there one style as a vocalist or as a bass player that you kind of gravitate to that you see as your sweet spot?
I don't know. I'm like not afraid to try anything. So I mean, I love it all because when I grew up, my ear there was AM radio, and the little transistor radio was stuck to my ear when I was a little kid. It was one of my best Christmas presents I ever got, and the variation in styles that you would get back then was you'd hear the Who then you would hear Tom Jones, then you would hear the Beatles, then you would, you know, it was just everything and anything. And I loved it all. And I was singing along with all of it too. So, um, everything in Motown too. I loved all that stuff. I haven't gotten the opportunity to do any Motown or anything like that. Boy, I would do it in a second. But I don't know what my favorite sweet spot is. I mean, I guess the hard rock thing is really second nature to me. I mean, I really loved that stuff when I was old enough to have a record player and get records. I had the Deep Purple and the Black Sabbath and this, you know, all the stuff that was coming out back then. So in the 70s.
Yeah, and it's funny because you talk about that, and kind of goes back even to what we were talking about a little earlier with the vinyl. Is back then, around the time we were growing up, the genres weren't as narrowly defined as they are now. You could put the radio on and hear anything and be influenced by anything.
Yes.
Whereas now it's all okay, this is the playlist that Spotify is telling you to listen to, and it's all the same style. Nobody could branch out anymore.
Yeah, that's a shame too, because I think I was already saying that the bands all sound the same. In each genre box that they put these different genres in. Whereas in the 70s and even into the 80s, bands, even in the same genre, sounded completely different. They had a completely different production style. The sound of the whole album would be different. It'd be just entirely different. And I don't know. I don't know what's happened to that. The digital recording age, I guess, they're just using the same plugins and they're using the same maybe templates for mixing and the same. It's just a push button. It's a push button world now, and they don't even know what that equipment is doing. They just know that's you push that button, you push that button. Whereas in the old days, we had millions of dollars of equipment in the studio we were using to record with, and we paid $2,500 a day for lockout for the best studios, and it was worth it because they had millions of dollars of equipment in there, and that's why stuff sounded so great.
You have so many projects that are always active. In addition to Ring of Fire, what else are you working on these days?
Well, I'll probably do another Shining Black album with Olaf Thorson, and I'm working on some solo stuff right now, which is kind of exciting because it's going to be a little different than anything else I'm doing. When I do different things, I'm trying to make them a little different, so it's not always doing the same kind of thing. And I actually have a heavy metal project that's coming out pretty soon too, but I won't mention that yet. But there's something else coming pretty soon.
Well, we're looking forward to it. We've been spending some time here with Mark Boals. The band is Ring of Fire. The record is Gravity. It's out everywhere now. Mark, thanks so much. It's been so great getting to talk to you, and best of luck. And I hope we do this again when the next project comes out.
Thanks for checking the album. Everybody, please check out Ring of Fire.
Definitely. Thanks a lot, Mark.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Cheers.